It's a tremendous chus. It's a privilege to take part in this wonderful endeavor. It's a great project. When I first heard of it from Rav Miller about 6 or 8 months ago, I was very excited. And I think it's a tremendous chus for anyone who's involved. Imit Hashem is going to pick up. You know, the Daf Yomi cycle, many times when the Daf Yomi cycle starts, it's packed for Masechet Brachos. When it comes time for Shabbos, you know, Shabbos, ba menucha. So people take a rest. Time comes for Masechet Eruvin, that's already mechutz latchum. When it comes time for Masechet Psochim, Baal Yereh, you can't find the guy. Baal Yereh, Baal Yimatzeh. In Mitzvah Hashem, it's not going to be like that in the Shulchan Aruch. It's just going to pick up more and more and more. Ad shemala haaretz deya es Hashem kamayim layam mechasim in Mitzvah Hashem. I can't think of a greater chus to be involved in. Not just you guys, especially the Magid Eshu and the founder, the facilitator, the organizer of all this. It's a tremendous, tremendous chus, and I'm envious of you. Who wouldn't be envious of Meir Shapira today? But back then, people mistama laughed at him. Okay, so you got 15, 20 guys. He's laughing today. You're going to be laughing in Mitzvah Hashem. After 120, you don't understand the reward that's waiting for you over there. Mezaki Arabim, there is nothing like it. So it's a tremendous, tremendous chus. So now that you embarked on the journey of Hilchos Shabbos, the title for this year was the unknown Halachos of Shabbos. Now that's kind of a tricky, because if it's unknown, I'm not supposed to reveal them. If I will reveal them, they're not going to be unknown. If I will say some halachos and they are known, so the title is totally wrong because it wasn't unknown. But ha'echreach lo yegune, and we're going to try, we do our best. But just a few words before about the chashivus, the tremendous importance of learning Hilchos Shabbos and teaching Hilchos Shabbos. The Bach in Orach Chaim Siman Reish Tzadik brings a Yalkut Shimoni, in Parshas Vayakel, Remez Talmid Chochem. That's the way to remember it. Remez Taf Ches, Talmid Chochem. And listen to a language of the Medrash. Vayakel Moshe, that's how the Parsha starts. Vayakel Moshe. Amhu Rabotenu Baalei Agada. Our rabbis say, Mitchilas HaTorah ve'ad Soifa, from the beginning of the Torah until the end. En ba Parsha sheneemar beroisha Vayakel el Azois Bilva. This is the only time you find the word Vayakel. And Moshe Rabbeinu gathered everybody here. Why? Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aselecha kehilos gedolos, gather a lot of people, udrosh lifneihem barabim hilchos Shabbos. Why is it so important? Kedei sheyilmedu mimcha doiros habayim lehakhil kehilos bechol Shabbos v'Shabbos velichnos batei midrashois lelamed ulehoiros liYisrael divrei Torah isu veheter kedei sheyehe shmi hagodol miskales ben banai. So that's exactly what you're doing. You're following suit. Moshe Rabbeinu is the example, and you're learning from him. The Eglei Tal has a tremendous chiddush. Eglei Tal is the Avnei Nezer, and he writes, just like we find that Shabbos has the weight corresponding to all the mitzvahs, so too one who learns Hilchos Shabbos and one who teaches Hilchos Shabbos has the weight corresponding to learning and teaching all the mitzvahs. Now that's a tremendous, tremendous chus. The Chassam Sofer writes that one who learns Hilchos Shabbos, it brings tremendous baracha and great hashpa to the person. But the Toldos Adam writes, and this is fascinating, Parshas Tetzaveh, by observing Shabbos, Shmira Shabbos kehilchasa, a person can merit and acquire sechel and das, midois and shleimus that normally he can't reach. He can't achieve based on his teva. But since Shabbos is above teva, it allows you to tap into areas above your teva and you can reach shleimus, mamisha, to be an Adam Shalem. The Taz in his Akdama to Siman Reish Mem Beis writes a fascinating thing. We look at Yom Kippur as the great day, the laundromat. You come in sort of not so clean, you come out pure and clean. Says the Taz, observing Shabbos, Shmira Shabbos ki hilchasa, is greater and can provide greater atonement than Yom Kippur. Why is that? Because in Yuma Peivav we learned Yom Kippur doesn't always work for everything. Arba chiluke kapara, the Gemara says. Mitzvahs ese, you just bang on your chest a few times, you're good to go. Mitzvahs lo yisaseh, well, it depends. What type of lo yisaseh? If it's involved kares, if it involves chilul Hashem, sometimes Yom Kippur is just not enough. And you need Yisurim, and you need Misa, it's not enough. But in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Ches, the Gemara says, Kol ha-shomer Shabbos kehilchasoi, afilu oived avoida zoro, kedor enosh, moicha liloi. Shabbos has the power to atone without sigufim. You don't need to roll in the snow. You don't need to roll in the thorns. You don't need misa. You know any type of yisurim. Shabbos has the power to atone. Says the Taz. This carries a lot of weight. The Taz. That it's greater in that respect than Yom Kippur, and therefore the only way to be able to be shomer Shabbos keilchaso is to learn the halachos, which you're involved in now. So it's a fantastic thing. I think the best way to teach unknown halachos, as in any other area that one tries to learn, is to do it in a form of questions and answers, and maybe in a way of riddles. Chazal say that when you learn in that form, it's easier to remember. So let's try. We're going to present all kinds of riddles, and let's see what the Talmidei Chachamim sitting here, how they can figure it out. Maybe with a little help, we'll find some unknown halachos. So let's start with the first question. Do we put on tefillin on Shabbos? You do? No? I thought you said yes. Great. We all agree, right? And who is the person that has to put tefillin on Shabbos? 3 possible answers. And we're not talking about a person who made a vow. We're not talking about a person who's sick. Everybody is healthy. And yet, you're saying he found it in the middle of the field. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and he can't wait until 9 o'clock at night. And therefore he has to put it b'derech malbush, and then he walks in to town. That's one person, but he has 2 other friends. Who else has to put on tefillin on Shabbos? You're sending us to Shulchan Aruch Shin Mem Daled, and the Biur Halacha. A person who's stuck in the desert, he doesn't know what day it is. He has to put on tefillin every single day of the week. Because his Tuesday, maybe is Shabbos. See, what he does, he keeps 6 days. He counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th is Shabbos. Could be that the 7th is really Tuesday, but he doesn't know. So therefore, he has to put on tefillin every single day of the week. It comes out. This is a riddle built in within a riddle. You can ask another riddle here, based on the Biur Halacha. It's Maradik. Who has to put tefillin on, but not when he's davening shachis? It's this person. On Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, his count, he has to put in tefillin on shachis. But on his Shabbos, well, again, could be a Tuesday or Wednesday, he cannot put tefillin on Shabbos when he's davening, because that's Tartei Desate. How can he say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you very much for the Shabbos you gave me? So what is the tefillin doing in your head? That's Tartei Desate. So he should not wear it during Shachis, and right after Shachis he can put them on. So he wears them all week long, but he doesn't wear them during Shachis. So Chiddush. That's the second person. Who's the third person that has to put his tefillin on Shabbos?
Someone who had 2 brothers.
Tumas Adeshen. Now this is not la'alacha. The first 2 were la'alacha. Tumas Adeshen brought in the Beis Yosef. We do not pass it like this, but it's a rishon, and therefore it carries a lot of weight. An arel shemesu echav machmas mila. The first baby in that family was born and died after the circumcision. The second as well. We do not circumcise the third one because we paskin like Reb Shimon in this case, like Reb Yehuda, that chazaka is constituted by twice because it's an Indian of sakana, even though normally we say chazaka 3 times. Why? Indian of sakana. Says that Tumas Adeshen, every Yid does not wear tefillin on Shabbos because we need to have always 2 oisers. You need to have an ois and another ois. You come into Shabbos, that's an ois. You also have a bris milah, so you have 2 oises on Shabbos. But on Arel, he wasn't able to have a bris milah. He comes into Shabbos with only 1 ois on Shabbos. And therefore he has to have 2. A Yid always has to have 2 oises. And therefore he puts on tefillin on Shabbos. Tefillin and Shabbos is his 2 oises. We do not pass on that halacha, but those are the 3 answers to our question. Let's ask another question. Ve'agisa bo yoimav alayla. Learn. Is it possible that there's a person that will tell him on Shabbos you can only learn Gemara? Don't learn Rashi and Tosfos. He has a Gemara in front of him. Don't look at the Rashi Tosfos. No. Only Gemara. How can it be? Why is he learning Le'or HaNor? If Chazal said not, Rabbi Shmuel did that, and you know what happened? Shabbos Daf Yud Beis. So why is he learning Le'or HaNor? Can't learn the Gemara as well. Not everybody together. What do you say, Rabbi Say? He's not so far off. Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Ayin Vav Seif Aleph. It's towards the end of Shabbos, it's getting dark, but you're able to read the big font of the Gemara. Comes a goy and lights the light just for you. He did it just for you, and now this will enable you to read the small bit which you wouldn't be able to otherwise. You can continue doing what you did before, but you're not allowed to benefit from what he did. Mimeles, you'll be able to continue only learning the Gemara and not Rashi and Tosfos. Can it be something which is mutar to carry on Shabbos? It's not muktzeh. It didn't break. However, it turns to become muktzeh on Shabbos. On Shabbos it becomes muktzeh. It didn't break. Can it be? Two possible answers. On Shabbos, in the middle of Shabbos, it becomes muktzeh, but nothing happened to it. It was not. I even used it before 5 minutes ago. Now tell me stop. It's muktzeh, but it wasn't muktzeh before. What about Nesek? Do you use that Nesek on Shabbos?
No, I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
The answer was muktzeh at the beginning of Shabbos too.
Yeah.
So that's why. At what point did it become?
You'll tell me. In the middle of Shabbos. At 10:42 a.m.
Mila that became disposed at the last minute.
What about Mila?
Bris Mila that was Zmano in Shabbos.
Yeah.
That became disposed at the last minute.
Yeah.
So the Moel from the Mishnayos of Shabbos, they can bring whatever they need. As soon as there's no need for the bris.
Very good, but you don't even have to go that far. The first answer is Klei Mila right after the Mila. If there is no other babies to perform bris mila on them, it becomes muktzeh, Sha'ar HaTziyun. Similarly, klei kvura, second day yontif, where they're allowed to bury. After the Cheved Kadisha did what they needed to do, if there is no need to bury other people, the klei kvura becomes muktzeh. Mila bizmana, you just said, override Shabbos. Can it be? Second day yontif. Second day Yontif for Kvura. We bury people on the second day Yontif. How can it be that Mila b'Shabbos override Shabbos? There's a moyel here. Yireh Shamayim medaktik b'mitzvahs. Healthy. The baby is here. Healthy, strong. All the Klei Mila are here. And yet, even though it's the 8th day, we're not going to perform the Mila. Can it be? No suffix. All tzaddikim, we know for a fact that he was born at 10 a.m. on Shabbos last week. He is healthy, the moyel is healthy, there is more than 10 people here, there's even good food for after, and yet? No, it doesn't override Shabbos. Lichoira, Mila that has to be performed on Shabbos. Mitzvah bali altach mitzena. Shehu ye mitzvah lo mashinan. It's the 8th day, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. And yet, we're not going to. Can it be? This appears twice in Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchos Mila, Yoredei Reish Samech Vav Sif Zayin, and again in Hilchos Shabbos and Shin Lamed Aleph. And the Mishnah Berurah says, Shulchan Aruch already says, if there's a moyel, that this is his first time, he doesn't perform Mila on Shabbos. Why? Because we're afraid. It's his first time. He's not an expert. Maybe he's going to make a mistake. And if he does make a mistake, it turns into a Chabala on Shabbos, and therefore we don't use a person that's his first time for Mila on Shabbos. What is it that you can only do with something which is muktzeh? If it's not muktzeh, you can't do it. Strange question. If it's muktzeh, so you can use it to do that thing. But if it's not muktzeh, you can't do it. Two possible answers. If there is in a vessel an item which is muktzeh, so you can throw in another muktzeh inside. Graf shel rei, something which is disgusting, it's muktzeh, but you're allowed to take it and put it in there. But if there's nothing in the vessel, you're not allowed to put it inside, because then what are you doing? Mevatel kli mehechanoi. That's first answer. Second answer. Orach Chaim, Reisha Ayin Zayin Seif Dalet. On Erev Shabbos, you're allowed to put the Ner of Shabbos on a tree and keep it there. It's going to light. Because it's muktzeh. We're not suspecting people are going to come on Shabbos, going to forget, oh, sure, you're going to take it off. It's muktzeh, you're not going to touch it. However, on Erev Yontif, you're not allowed to put the Ner over there, because on Yontif you're allowed to carry the Ner, and therefore we're afraid you're going to take it off the tree, and you're not allowed to use a tree on Shabbos or on Yontif. So only with a muktzeh you can do this. Both people cooked for a Yid. It was Reuven, the Jew, who cooked for his friend Shimon, and it was his friend the Goy, who also cooked for Shimon. We tend to think, what's more severe?
Wait, what did the guy cook?
Whatever the Jew cooked. Piece of meat. They cooked the same thing. The Yid? Can it be that the Goy's action carries more severe consequences? Not pikuach nefesh. Not pikuach nefesh. We're not talking to pikuach nefesh. The Jew is a rasha. The Goy is not a rasha because he's allowed to cook. So you're saying we go into the problem of bishul akum as far as the food. And what if it's a food that doesn't have bishul akum problem? For example, something which can be eaten raw, even if the Goy cooks it, is no problem. Something which is eino oile al shulchan melachim does not become asu by bishul akum. So he cooked some carrots. Carrots, correct? But now I'm changing it. What's that? Well, in some place, according to the Gemara, you're right. According to the Gemara, you're right. Today, I don't think most people do it. Today, that will go into a shaila of sushi, raw. So he cooked carrots. What can be possibly wrong, more severe with the Goy's action, more so than the Yid's? Can it be? Oh, explain. When the Goy did it, why? B'chdei sheyasu. Why? Why? Because next week I'm going to tell them, this is great. You're cooking for me on Shabbos. I have what to eat, finally. But a Yid who cooks for somebody else, I don't have to wait. That's the first thing. What's the second thing? What happens to the kli that he cooked it in? Says the Mishnah Berurah, if it's a Yid who cooks in something on Shabbos, if he cooked it for somebody who's sick, no problem, nothing happened. Somebody who needs it, pikuach nefesh. But if he cooks it just because he cooked it, because he's a rasha, so that kli needs hag'ala. A goy, it doesn't make a difference who he cooked it for. If he cooked it, you need to do hag'ala to the pot, and therefore, in that respect, there's two more severe things in the goy than the Yid. Now listen to a maisa. I'm going to tell you a story. A terrible maisa. Terrible maisa. There's a young couple. The father holds that his mother-in-law, the food there is not kosher. Can't eat there. It's nonsense. But that's what he thinks. He warned his wife many times, do not take food from your mother and bring it here. One winter Friday, when Shabbos is, comes in at 4 o'clock, and she has a lot of kinderlach to take care of, and she just didn't have the time to prepare her children before Shabbos. When did she remember? When her husband went to shul already. Oy vey! So she runs to her mother, who lives close by, and she takes a pot of children, and she puts it on the plata. The husband comes back, and he sees this. He sees a pot that he doesn't recognize. He realizes, oh, this is from your mother. And I told you not to bring food from your mother! And he starts yelling, and he goes crazy. And guess what else he did? Srasha Merusha. He opened up the fridge, he took milk, and he poured it into the children. This comes from gaiva that leads into tremendous gas. Can do crazy things. The wife said, Adkan, that's it. Can't tolerate this. And she left and she went back to her parents. And the wife says, I cannot live with a person who violates 3 Isurei Deoraisa. I want divorce. 3 Isurei Deoraisa, not 1. They are. Mevashel b'Shabbos, Basar b'Chalav, Baltashchis. I don't want to live with him. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you know what? Erase my name as long as there will be Shlom Bais, which means if this was gymnastics, we have to do acrobatics in halacha and do whatever we can. Stretch our imagination, stretch halacha to try and restore Shlom Bais. Is there anything that we can do to help this couple? And to say, well, lady, it's not so bad. Like what you're saying, you're stirring 3 Isurei Deoraisa. We're saying it's not so bad. Maybe she's right. Rabbi Yisai, what do you say? Applying Hilchos Shabbos is not only for Hilchos Shabbos. It's also for Shlom Bais and anything that we can do with it. What do you say? Let's attack the first issue. Is she right? Bishul b'Shabbos.
Maybe not.
How not? You take milk and you pour it into a boiling pot of chunt.
Maybe it's not boiling. Maybe
It's boiling, bubbling. Pasteurized is it's an interesting chakira. What is pasteurized? Which also nafka mina for wine. Yei nesech. If pasteurized is in fact. But let's assume that it's not. They live in a moshav and they just milked the cow a few hours ago and it's not pasteurized. Real, lichoira, cooking on Shabbos. Oh! On Shabbos we have a rule. Kol mekalkelin, turin. Mimele. It's still asu. Don't tell me it's a deoraisa though. We just reduce it to a derabanan. She can't live with a person who violates isurei deoraisa. 3 for the price of 1. So, lady, an isur deoraisa bishul b'Shabbos you don't have here. You have an isur derabanan. Shabbos Chuvas Rashi Besamim has a similar shaila like this, and he says, since you created something which is asu behana, it's mekalkel, kol mekalkelin pturim. Great.
You could even bring it down if you see that she got cold challenge from her mother.
No.
It was raw.
It was hot, it's boiling, bubbling on the plata.
Is it flesh?
It's asu behana, it's nothing. Has to be consumed in fire. Basar bechalav, second issue. What do you say about this, Rabbi Sam?
If he holds its trachis,
Yeah.
then it's hard.
Doesn't hold that it's tafis. He doesn't buy horse meat. But he holds it's not up to his standards. It's not kosher over there. Of course, the mother is from. But to his standards, it's not kosher. What'd you say? I'm sorry? Somebody said something there?
It's a substantial amount. I'm assuming it's not.
It's not batel berov. If batel berov, we have a shayla. He poured the milk. Shh. What do you say? Can we help them out on this one?
You could always say that look, if it's straight from the cow and he hasn't really gone through the homogenization and the pasteurization process,
Yeah.
and
So it's not milk?
the enrichment process, then you could say it's not really 100% olive.
What is it? What would you want to call it?
It's straight from the cow.
That's how Avoseinu used to drink milk. And on that, the Torah said, don't cook meat with milk.
How much milk did he throw in the pot?
A lot. A lot. He wanted to make sure that you don't touch it.
So no chance.
No way. No way. No bitul beroi. He knows what he's doing. We have to go to Berlin to figure this one out. In the times of Samson and Farhosh and Reb Meir Shapira, they had a suffix. These great people had a suffix. There was a shaila on the chocolate there, if it's kosher or not. Could be there's something in there, some kind of meat ingredient. And the only way to find out back then was to take it to the lab, to melt it, and to find out. Are you allowed to do this?
You're talking about Tom now?
What's that?
In the Tom now?
They wanted to know what are the ingredients in the chocolate. The only way to do it is in the lab. But the Torah says not only don't eat basar bechalav, not only don't benefit from it, don't cook it. Even if you're not planning to eat. Even if you're using a goy. Can you do it or not? So they wanted to say no. A young genius came to town, and that was a Chabinirov, later to be the Doivev Meisharim, and he writes it in Simin Lamed Aleph in the Doivev Meisharim Chelek Aleph. And he says, Yesh lehakel. You can send it to the lab. Doivev Meisharim. What's going on? Says the Doivev Meisharim. Why does the Torah say don't cook meat and milk? Mishneh LaMelech, Tumas Mes, Perek Aleph Halacha Beis says, why? Because you're going to come to eat it. If you're going to cook it, you're going to come to eat it. Here, why am I sending it to the lab? In order not to eat it. He brings the raya. Psachim Yud Aleph. If you didn't do Bdikas Chametz before Pesach, just remember, in the middle of Chol HaMoed, what do? When do you do Bdikas Chametz? Now! And why are you not afraid you're going to come to eat the Chametz? What happens when you find Chametz in the middle of Yontif and you can't burn it? You put something over it, right? Why? Because you're afraid you're going to touch it, you're going to come to eat it. Ain't no boidel from it the entire year. So why are you allowed to do Bdikas Chametz now? Because what's the Bdikas Chametz for? In order to burn it, to find it and to burn it. Says it over Mesharim. Why am I sending it to the lab? In order to make sure not to eat it if it has some meat ingredients. But you know what we just did here? This is called Darshinan, Taima, Dekra. You say, I see the mitzvah, I understand where it's coming from, so it doesn't apply here. That's called Darshinan Taima. Do we Darshan Taima Dekra? There was a person who did it. His name was Shlomo HaMelech. What did he Darshan? What two mitzvahs? The Torah says, don't increase wives, don't increase horses, because... So Shlomo says, I see the reasons, it doesn't apply to me. But this is wrong. The Gemara says it didn't work for him. How much more so for us? So is this considered being Darshan Taima Deka? The Shita Mekubetzes in Bab Metzia Daf Tzadi brings. Over there the Gemara discusses the lav of Lotachsom Shor Bedishoy. The shor is working, you're not allowed to muzzle him. Says the Gemara, but what if the shor has diarrhea? Then you're allowed to. Why are you allowed to do this? Because it's going to be terrible for it if it's going to continue to eat. Says the Shita Mekubetes, aren't we darshaning Taima Dika? What are you doing here? The Torah says no. The Torah didn't say in parentheses, by the way, but if the shor doesn't feel well, you can. The Torah says no. You're saying the reason is because it's going to cause Tsar Balei Chaim. Well, here, the real Tsar Balei Chaim is to allow it to continue to eat. That's called Darshinan Taima Dika. The Shita Mekubetes brings the Rosh. And the Rosh sends us to Baba Kama Daf Kuf Tezvav Amud Aleph, Lo tachavol beged almana. So the Gemara over there says, well, it depends. Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda. Reb Shimon says it depends if the lady, the almana, is rich or poor. If she is a poor widow and you lend her some money, don't take her pajamas. Don't take her suit. Because at night you're going to have to come back. She's poor. She doesn't have anything else to wear. You're going to have to come back at night and give it to her. You're going to have to come back in the morning and give her whatever the skirt that she's wearing. And the neighbors are going to start talking, why is this guy here every night and every morning? What's going on with this almana? You're going to cause her to have a bad name. Says the Shita Mekubetzet, brings the Rosh. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who does not darshan time at the call like Rabbi Shimon, he would admit in the case of the shor that here you're allowed to muzzle him. Why? Because here it's so clear what the Torah writes, that the only reason not to do it is because it's going to cause Tsar Balei Chaim. So when the real Tsar Balei Chaim is to allow it to continue eating, it's as if the Torah says so. This is Rabbeinu Arosh. So when everybody understands that's the reason, it's as if it's written in the Torah. Therefore the Shabbat Nerov understood, like the Mishnah Lamelech, that when the Torah says don't cook it, it means it's in order because you're going to come to eat it. Here I'm not going to come to eat it. It's exactly the opposite. Maybe it's not a problem. The Chazon Ish writes similarly, that the Ramban writes, Kevan shehu pashut uvichlal pshuto. The Ramban brings reasons for the mitzvahs, matnos aniyim. And the Ramban says it's so pashut as if it's written in the Torah itself. And therefore you're allowed to cook the chocolate. So back to our couple here. And the wife says,
My husband cooked meat with milk. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. What did he do? He thought it's not kosher, so he wanted to prevent you from eating. According to this, and again, this is called acrobatics in halacha. We're stretched, we're doing flip-flops, we're doing all kinds of things. According to that, he didn't do a isur d'oraisa of cooking meat and milk. He wanted to separate you from it. And he succeeded. Nobody would ever touch this joint. According to that, lichoira. He wanted to save you. What about Bal Tashchis? Same thing. Bal Tashchis means you come taking something and you're destroying it for no reason. I have a reason here. I want to save my wife and everybody else in the house from eating this something which is not kosher. He has a reason according to his crooked mind. Mimele didn't transgress and he said, "D'oraisa Bal Tashchis." The husband has to do tshuva, serious tshuva. And the wife, Baruch Hashem, was appeased because she held it's 3 isur d'oraisa and we just showed her that it's not. So, you see, for Shlom Bayis, we have to go all out, whatever we can pull, in order to restore Shlom Bayis, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us to erase his name. Yeah. Bnei Yisrael brings, why is it so terrible to get angry on Shabbos? Because the Zohar's language is, Man dekais b'Shabbos, keilu okid nua de Gehenom. One who gets angry on Shabbos, it's as if he lit the fires of Gehenom. Says the Bnei Yisrael, it's always bad to get angry. Nedorim Chav Beis, terrible things over there about anger. But on Shabbos it's even worse, because on Shabbos the fire of Gehenom don't work. So one who gets upset, it's as if he lit the fire of Gehenom. That's what the Zohar says. And he's transgressing cooking on Shabbos. The guys upstairs, they have a rest. They're not being cooked now on Shabbos. But when he lights the fires of Gehenom, says the Bnei Yisrael is cooking on Shabbos. Rabbi said an interesting riddle. What is this thing that you're not allowed to do? But if you say this halacha, I'm not allowed to do this, then you're allowed to do it. 2 answers. If you don't say anything, you're not allowed to do this. But if you'll tell me the halacha, so now you're allowed to do it. Can it be? What about divrei chol?
You can't say going to China on Shabbos, but you can say, you're not allowed to say that you're not allowed to go to.
Oh, very good, very good. And I have 2 other possible answers. Excellent. Shulchan Aruch Chaim Shin Chav Ches, Seif Ches. Especially look at the Darkei Moshe. You're not allowed in the morning to put rok tafel, saliva, fresh saliva, as soon as you get up. Apparently it's very potent. And they used to put it on the eye for refuah. So the halacha is you're not allowed to use that in the morning before you speak because it's very, very potent. It's muchach de refuah avid. It's clear that you're doing for refuah. But once you say this halacha, by the way, I'm not allowed to put rok tafel on my eye, so that it's not rok tafel anymore. Maybe at that point you're allowed to put it. The other halacha not relevant to Shabbos, any day of the week, you're not allowed to make the shul a kapandria, a shortcut. Simin Kuf Nun Aleph. But if you come into the shul and you say some halachos, you're not allowed to make a shul into a kapandria, so now you can. Normally, we're more lenient for a person who's sick on Shabbos than to a person who is healthy, right? We all agree? Great. 3 possible answers where we're more lenient with the healthy person and we allow him to do the things that we will not be allowed for the sick person to do. Can it be? Not everybody together. One by one. I can't hear when you're all yelling.
What was the question again?
What can a healthy person do on Shabbos that a sick person can't? What's that?
Something to do with pain, no? Taking some medications. Someone who's
Not taking the pain medication.
Food.
Food!
Either a food or a medication.
Oh, so a healthy person, if he's eating it because he is hungry or thirsty, he's allowed to. The sick person that didn't reach the stage that he's allowed to take medication is not allowed to because it's proven that he's taken for medicine and he's not at that stage yet. That's the first answer. Excellent. Second answer. Biur Halachat, the end of Reish Pei Tes. Before Shachis, one who is healthy is allowed to drink water. One who is sick and is allowed to eat because of that so he can't drink water because now he has to do Kiddush. Mimele, even water he won't be able to drink before Shachris. The third answer. Mishnabu and Siman Shin Lamed Vav. A sick person is not allowed to lean on a tree. A healthy person is allowed to lean on a tree. As long as the tree doesn't move, the healthy person is allowed to. The sick person, he's so weak, doesn't have any koyach. So he uses all his koyach and he leans on the tree, and that's considered kemishtamish b'mechubar, and therefore he's not allowed to lean on the tree. Another 3 possible answers. Amir aleakum is deoraisa or derabanan? Derabanan. Can it be that Amir aleakum is deoraisa? Can we upgrade Amir aleakum to deoraisa? 2 possible answers. Mishnah Brura, Shin Daled, Seif Aleph. If you say something to a ger toishav, since the Torah says ve'inafesh ben amasra ve'hager, it becomes an amira dioraisa. The Minchas Chinuch Mitzvah Kuf Yud Beis, if you say to a goy on Shemitah, I want you to work the land, it becomes an isur dioraisa, the amira le'akum. 2 great chidushim. What's more chamur, toilada or av? Av melacha or toilada? Av, pashut. Can it be that the toilada was more chamur than the av? Can it be that it's more chamur? The toilada is more chamur than the av melacha? How can that be? Remez Shin Yud Ches, cooking. Can you cook using the benefit of the sun? Chama. You allowed to? You're allowed to. Can you use toldos chama? Why? Why not?
Because it's not cooking in the sun.
Because it's a gzera. Because maybe when people see you doing that, they will say, oh, I guess the toilada is allowed to, so I know I'm not allowed to cook with fire, but I'm allowed to use toilada of fire. Gzera. So it comes out that toilada of chama is more severe than the chama, because toilada of chama you're not allowed to cook, and with the chama you are allowed to. Now this is a very strange question. Can it be one does a melacha on Shabbos at 6 a.m. and we'll tell him, patu. He does the same melacha 6 hours later. So, chayav. Skila. Same melacha. Everybody's healthy. No vows, no inadarim, anything like that. Same melacha. 6 a.m. patu. Come back at 12, at 1 o'clock, at 2 p.m. chayav. And when you're patu in the morning, lechatchila.
First of all, for skila, you have to have 2 reasons.
Of course. It's
It's
skillable. I'm not sure we're going to give it because we also don't have a Sanhedrin today. But it's a skillable
A
act.
guy who doesn't know it's Shabbos, and you said before that he should put on tefillin and mincha, not Shabbos.
And if he puts tefillin, is chayav skila? What did he do? So how can he carry 6 a.m.? It's still Shabbos?
No, but he didn't know Shabbos. He carried.
Patu and lechatchila. Is he lechatchila allowed to when he doesn't know?
Lulav on Shabbos.
When he doesn't know.
That was a mitzvah. He didn't mekayim yet.
So is lechatchila allowed to do so? If he would come and ask us, we would say, of course, do it lechatchila.
He puts fruit out to dry.
No, it's
He puts
shogeg.
food out to dry?
Shogeg. Oh, you're saying the baby?
Fruit. No.
Shogeg,
No sun
shogeg.
at 6 in the morning.
So?
It's not malach.
So if he plants something and then the rain only comes 6 hours later, when he did the actual melacha, it's not a problem. We're saying lechatchila is allowed to do this. It's tremendous chiddush.
When you say 6 a.m., you mean it's dark outside? Is that what you're
No
implying?
strong sun.
No, he said 1 or 2. Says something to do with mincha.
5 a.m. Could be even 8 a.m. Depends where. And not necessarily having to do with light or dark.
No, but does it have to do with his mum?
No. It has to do with something that has to do with his man.
People who are outside.
Oh, well, he ate?
Gesundheit. Why would he be chayav skila? Shabbos daf kuf vav. Rashi. But lalacha. One who traps chagavim on Shabbos If he does it at 6 a.m. when there's still dew, the Chagavim misavrim, they're blind. And it's as if nitzoidin ve'oimdin. And therefore, lechatchila you can do it. But when it's sharav, when it's hot out there and it's 2 p.m. and the sun is beating down, then it's mamish melacha d'yoraisa of tzad. The Rashash wonders on Rashi, why is it lechatchila mutar? From Rashi it's implied that it's mutar lechatchila. The Rashash doesn't understand why that is. It's 6 a.m. It's mutar lechatchila, nitzoidin ve'oimdin. But that's what the Rashi says. What's interesting about this halacha is that the Rambam didn't bring it, the Shulchan Aruch didn't bring it, but the Biur Halacha brings it in Shin Tes Zayin, and that's the answer to our question. Can it be one can drive on Shabbos, but he can't do laundry at that time? Or the reverse. He can do laundry, but he can't drive. At the same time. Can it be?
Most men can't.
Shabbos! Even if you can do 5 things at once, it's Shabbos! Says the Taz in Reish Samech Gimel Gimel, in Ben Hashmashos, you can accept on yourself, in Tosefes Shabbos, you can accept on yourself certain melachos, and I'm not accepting on myself when I'm accepting Shabbos to do other melachos. So if you accept on yourself not to drive, you're not allowed to drive, but you're allowed to do the laundry. And the reverse. So that's the Taz in Reish Samech Gimel Gimel.
Laundry is a bad example.
What's that?
You're not supposed to do laundry on Friday, especially on.
Yeah, but I need the garment for Shabbos. I don't have what to wear. Muktzeh, you're allowed to touch or you're not allowed to carry. What's exactly the definition of muktzeh? Don't move it. So I'm allowed to touch it?
Yes.
Great. What muktzeh are you not allowed to touch? That's not on Shabbos, that's also on Monday and Tuesday. What's that?
No line?
No. An head? An egg. Shulchan Aruch Chaim Shin Yud, and again in Shin Chav Beis, an egg. Any little touch, you're going to touch it a little, it's going to roll, it's going to move, and therefore you're not allowed to. Excellent. What mitzvah you perform on weekdays and you say a bracha over it? You do the same mitzvah on Shabbos, no bracha. 2 possible answers. Tefillin we don't put on Shabbos.
No, in the field. In the field.
Then you're wearing a derech malbush. It's not a mitzvah. You're doing a mitzvah, and yet you're not going to say a bracha. Doing a mitzvah. On Monday, you say a bracha. On Shabbos, you don't. How can that be? 2 possible answers. Mishnah Bura Shin Chaf Beis. Lamed Gimel. Tvilas Kelim. On Monday, when you tovel Kelim, you have to say a bracha? Yeah. On Shabbos, are you allowed to do Tvilas Kelim? No. Why? Misakin? But I really need it. And I don't have anything else to wear. Anything else to use, I'm sorry. So what do? Derech ha'arama. I put it in the well, and I'm just taking out some water. I'm doing the mitzvah of Tvilas Kelim. But when you do it that way, don't say a bracha. The other answer, 2nd day of Yontif, Rosh Hashanah, is on Friday. We didn't have a shofar. We're waiting for the shaliach, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and finally it arrives. But we already accepted Shabbos on ourselves. We did it early. We made it at that time. Take the shofar, says the Mishnah Bura, and only blow tashat, tarat, only 10 times. And blow it, but without saying a bracha. The Mishnah Bura continues. It's an interesting Mishnah Bura, but that would be sufficient for us, for the answer that we wanted. A person forgets to say Atachoy Nentanu. Does he have to repeat Ma'ariv? No. We know that if he ate afterwards B'mezir and do Avdallah, he has to repeat. I'm not talking about that. He didn't eat. Is there any way that he has to repeat Shmoneh? When will it be that we'll say to him, you have to again say Shmoneh, not because there are other things that he forgot. Only because you forgot Atachoy Nentanu. And he didn't eat anything.
He didn't have any wine to do Avdallah.
Explain.
He has to, in the case where he doesn't have any Avdallah, so he has to say.
But maybe he's going to get the wine tomorrow.
Tuesday.
Says the Shulchan Aruch, Reish Tzadi Dalet, if he doesn't have wine now, and he doesn't think that he will have wine tomorrow, then he has to do Avdallah now and Tefillah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, because he knows that it's coming tomorrow, then he shouldn't, because he can rely on the wine that's coming tomorrow. Excellent. Rabbi Isai, last riddle. Everybody knows the Maaseh, I don't have to repeat it. Giti Nun Hei Amud Beis, Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. We all know the Maaseh, right? Any interesting nafkamina lahaloche, especially for Hilchos Shabbos, stemming out of that Agadita part in the Gemara? It's a fascinating Maaseh. What does it have to do with us?
Yeah, they could have been knocking the korban on Shabbos.
Any nafkamina to us today? No Beis Hamikdash, and yet Kamsa and Bar Kamsa apply every Shabbos. Can it be? There's an issue to read Shitrei Hedyotos on Shabbos. Right? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Shin Gimel, the Shamish is allowed, he says, the Mishnah Berurah says, how is it that we see the Shamish writing from the list of the invitees on Shabbos? Because they didn't decree this issue, this gezerah of don't read Shitrei Hedyotos on Shabbos on the Shamish. Why? Because look what happened last time that the Shamish didn't do a good job reading and inviting the right people. A tremendous churban came out of it. Therefore, because of this Kamsa and Bakamsa Maaseh, they never decreed on the Shamish, and therefore he can read from the list of people. Moiradik. Two other possible answers, nafkamina lahaloche. Not necessarily Shabbos. One of them can be on Shabbos and weekdays. The other, not relevant to Shabbos necessarily. Actually, both of them can apply on Shabbos as well. The other thing is in Shulchan Aruch, which you already learned, in Kuf Nun Gimel, a person who has a house and he donated it or he's lending it to become a shul la rabbim. But he's this one guy who comes there, you can't stand him. So he says to everybody, you can come in, you can't. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you're not allowed to do this. And if you want, just close the shul. But you can't do this. Why? Because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. Because what happens when you embarrass someone publicly? We know the story. Churban Beis HaMikdash. The third thing is, in Mishnah Berurah, not Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch. Or Chaim, Siman Kufayin. Shulchan Aruch quotes a Gemara in Pesachim Peivav Amud Beis. Hanichnas lebeis chaveiro. Kol ma sheyomar lecha ba'al habayis, aseh. The Shulchan Aruch says, yeah, aseh. That's it. The Bir Halacha brings that in some versions of the Shulchan Aruch there is chutz mitzeh, just like it says in the Gemara. By the way, what is chutz mitzeh? What does that mean? Leave. The Ben Yehoyada doesn't understand like you, and the Ben Yehoyada says, tzachus, tzeh is rashi tevos, tzorchei ishtoi. When the Balabos says to you, start taking care of my wife's matters, that's when it stops, and then you don't have to listen to him. Says as Fas Emes back there in Pesachim Pei Vav, where did they get this statement from? Chazal say, Kol ma sheyomar lecha ba'al habayis aseh, chutz mitzeh, don't leave no matter what. That comes from the Maaseh with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, because look what happened. If Kamsa would stay, we wouldn't have a Churban Beis HaMikdash. That's what the Sfas Emes says. So this applies actually in Shabbos as well, because all three answers apply in Shabbos as well. So those are our riddles. I just want to end by saying something about the tremendous thing that you're involved, the effort, and that in Mitzvah Hashem you'll be able to continue. There's a Gemara in Shabbos Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. Omar Rava, B'sha'ah shemachnisin Adam ladin, shoya li moisoy. Rava says to us what happens after 120. They're going to ask a series of 6 questions. The first one, Asakta, Nasata v'natata be'emuna. Are your business dealings honest? The second one, Kavata itim latoya. Did you set specific times to learn? Why is it so important? Listen to this, it's worth at least $1 million. Cash. Who says the following? The Pele Yoetz says it in his Pele Yoetz. But the Pele Yoetz is a Sefer Musa. Pele Yoetz wrote another Sefer called Ya'alzu Chasidim. But that's also Sefer Musa and Sefer Chasidim. But he also wrote a very important halachic work. What is that? Chesed la'alofim. Chesed la'alofim simen kuf nun hey. Chesed la'alofim, Shulchan Aruch Chaim. The same thing says the Ben Yehoyada. Adata de nafshei. Both great Nevi'im, Misnabim, Besignon Echad. He writes it in Brachos Lamed Hey Amud Beis.
And the Imre Emes writes similarly, I think in Shnas Tafresh Memhei, listen to the following. Why is it so important? Kavata itim latoira. And don't change that and don't cancel it for no matter what. We have a rule. Normally we go basar roiv, right? Call the parish miruba parish. But not always. Because in Ksubis Tesvav Amud Aleph we learn, kol kavua kemerza al merza dami. If something is set in its place, it's not viewed as it's 1 out of 10. As 1 out of 10, it's viewed as 50-50, 5 and 5, just because it's set in its place. These Gedolim say, if all you have is that 24 minutes and a half for Shulchan Aruch Yomi, and I'm sure you have more, but whatever it is that you have, and it's kvius though, and it doesn't change, so then your day is viewed is half and half. Kol kavua kemerza al merza dami. But it doesn't stop there, because in Rosh Hashanah Yud Zayin Amud Aleph the Gemara darshans a pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Rav Chesed. What is Rav Chesed? Mateh klapei Chesed. When it's exactly equal on the scales, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tilts the scales in your favor. So if by having a set time and you don't change it, no matter what, you moved up to Kol kavua kemerza al merza, it's in the entire it's a half of the day. So Mimele, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu tilts the scales. And now, the rov of your day, you're sitting and learning. It doesn't stop there, because in Nazir Membeis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Rubai kechunoi. So by the 10 minutes that you're learning a day, in this case 25 at least, then you add the Daf Yomi, then you add this, then you add that, whatever it is. But it's kavua. You move to kavua kemerza al merza. Once it's merza al merza, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the rest for you, and it's rov. It moves up. It's the rov. Once you have a rov, ruboy kechulo, and the entire day is viewed in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as if you're sitting and learning 24/7, 354 days a year. Moiradik. You should learn, steig, and more importantly, retain. But even more importantly, have fun in the process.